Hello everyone, and welcome to Rights and Democracy TV, live at 5:25. Thanks for tuning in again, once again this month. So this is our monthly connection to Rights and Democracy, a grassroots, people-powered organization committed to building independent and fundamental political change. As always, we're here to recap RAD events from the past month and to go over some campaigns and things we're going to do in the future. My name is Grant Taylor. I'm here again doing what I love to do for Rights and Democracy. Joining me today is Brenda Patoine, a local science writer and Rights and Democracy member. Brenda will bring us an update from the Frontlines report from our Stand Up for Healthcare rally and press conference in Montpelier. That was yesterday. Of course, our whole country is in a bit of a political mess right now, and we have a lot of things going on nationally. Vermont is not isolated from any of this big stuff going on. We have some really nice updates from our Raise the Wage and Fight for $15 an hour campaign, some current migrant justice issues that are going on in Vermont, and efforts from VPIRG, Energy Independent Vermont, and 350 Vermont, to get our legislators to pass a bill, S51, which is a commitment to 90% renewable energy by the year 2050. So I'd like to start off by jumping right into our Healthcare for All and kind of Save Healthcare for Everybody campaigns and rallies. I'm just going to ask Brenda to go ahead if you'd like to introduce yourself to the crowd and let us know how you got into this fight with us.
Well, that's a good question, actually. What am I doing here? Sometimes I've been asking myself. I mean, I guess I'm a science writer. I've been self-employed science writer for, 30 years or so. So being self-employed, I am one of the ones who has benefited from the Affordable Care Act. Before the Affordable Care Act came along, I didn't have insurance. So it benefited me personally. And I mean, when I was married, I had insurance through my husband's employer-based plan, and he had really good insurance. So for many years, probably 20 years, I never had to think about health insurance because I was always covered under his. So when I divorced him, suddenly I was left without any health care, and it was going to cost about $500 or $600 a month to keep that going, that COBRA coverage, which wasn't really financially feasible for me at that time.
Yeah.
And isn't now.
Yeah.
So I let it go, I let the health care go. And I wasn't that terribly concerned about it because fortunately, I'm a healthy person. I don't go to the doctor a lot. I don't have any major health conditions. I don't get sick a lot, thank God. So I'm one of those people that insurance companies love, actually. Because,
right.
You're paying in, but you're not taking out.
Yeah.
So I let the insurance go. And, there was always that nagging feeling, that sort of low-level anxiety that you were one slip on the ice away from financial ruin.
Complete ruin, right?
Yeah, I mean, the number one cause of bankruptcy is healthcare bankruptcy, right? Medical bankruptcy. So it was a very real fear,
Yeah.
It didn't keep me up at night, but there was, like I said, that very nagging notion that that's all it would take
In the back
to
of your
wipe
mind.
out my retirement savings, everything. And then what? And then what do they do? Go after my dad or something and his retirement savings?
Right.
So that was not a good feeling. So when the opportunity came along to get coverage through the ACA, I jumped at it, frankly. I should say I didn't really jump at it. I kind of begrudgingly went for it because, I was being faced with the penalty, the old penalty, right? That if you didn't have insurance, you were going to be penalized.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that didn't feel good.
Yeah.
I mean, and I wasn't happy with the Affordable Care Act. I was not, as a lot of us were.
Yeah.
We were not happy that it was basically written by insurance companies, that it, kept Big Pharma being able to set their own prices for drugs without us being able to negotiate them, without the government being able to negotiate that. There were a lot of problems with it.
Yeah.
But it was better than nothing, right? Something was better than nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for me personally, it meant the difference between not having health care and having health care.
Yeah.
So that made a difference for me.
Yeah.
So I guess how I got involved in Rights and Democracy, I mean, I had been volunteering for Rights and Democracy as a photographer, behind-the-scenes photographer, which is kind of what I do. I'm a writer and a photojournalist. So when I heard about some of the things that they were doing, I thought, oh, this is cool. I'll take some pictures, and I really liked that. So I started getting updates from Rights and Democracy about what was going on, and I think I shared one of the first healthcare rally back in January that was part of Bernie Sanders' kind of Save Healthcare Day. It was the first one.
Yeah, we highlighted that rally and had some video from it on our last show in January.
Yeah.
I
bet you did. Yeah, that was a great rally.
It was a lot of people, a lot more people than we thought were going to show
Over 1,000
up.
people. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
So I had actually just shared that on my Facebook page, along with a little note that said, I have health care because of this Affordable Care Act, so this is important to me personally.
Yeah.
And one of the wonderful activists at Rights and Democracy, Isaac Grimm, who's a Facebook friend of mine, saw this, and next thing I know, they're calling me up and saying, hey, why don't you tell your healthcare story at the rally? And I was, I'm what I have come to learn is a glossophobic, which means a fear of public speaking. Okay. I mean, literally, it makes me sweat. I might be starting to sweat now. So I didn't really want to do that. But they assured me.
This was yesterday?
No. This was back in January.
The big rally. Okay, right.
Which didn't start out to be a big rally, right? It started out to be a few people, maybe. I think Jessica told me at the time, maybe there'd be 50 people. And then she called me a couple days later and says, well, it looks like it's going to be a little more than 50 people. They changed the venue 3 times.
Yeah.
They ended up at Burlington High School in the auditorium, which was packed full to the brim, over 1,000 people. So you can imagine that I was more than a little nervous walking in there and seeing this room full. But it was really exciting. I mean, the thing that I realized through the course of this, was I was trying to talk them out of using me. I said, well, if you really get stuck, I could do it. But, I said, I don't have a compelling healthcare story. I mean, you need to get some single mom with a sick kid, or some nice old man who's in danger of losing his Medicare, some really compelling story.
Yeah.
In my case, I'm just a single, self-employed writer who lost her health insurance when she divorced her husband.
Okay.
So, at some point in the course of this conversation, trying to get out of that first speaking gig, it occurred to me that it's not about me, it's about all of us.
Us.
It's about us.
Each of us and all of us.
And all of us.
Yeah.
And that single mom is my best friend in Barrie.
Right.
And that nice old man is my dad out in the Northeast Kingdom.
Okay.
So it is. It's personal.
Yeah.
But it's not about me. It's not about you. It's not about any one of us. It's about what is fair for everyone, and what kind of society do we want to live in?
Society and community, we're working together, we're living together, but then how can we turn our back maybe someday and say, well, I'm sorry, I just can't fathom a way to give you health care.
Yeah.
I can't.
Sorry, I'm all set.
Yeah, I'm
set,
I'm
so
okay,
I don't really care
right?
about you.
Yeah.
How do we do that? I don't. I can't wrap my brain around that.
It's human, I think. We all have some bits about ourselves, right? And we go with the flow sometimes, and when that flow maybe doesn't pay attention enough to everybody, we get wrapped right up in it. But
it's true.
Well, go ahead.
I was going to say that we each have to make that choice for ourselves, don't we?
Yeah.
We have to make it for ourselves individually, and we have to make it as a nation.
Yeah.
all of us together.
Right.
What kind of society do we want to live
Yeah.
to live in? And this is one of the messages that I tried to bring home yesterday, which was the rally at the State House. Press conference.
How did that go? Number of people that showed up?
I think it went really well. It was in the Cedar Creek room, right in the middle of kind of everything going on at the State House. So I would say maybe 75 people or so.
Okay, all right.
It was a pretty full house. Lots of cameras and media and reporters there. So I think we had a good crowd and a good message and a good response to the message. You know, yesterday was the anniversary of the Affordable Care Act being passed 7 years ago. So that was sort of the backdrop for it.
Yeah.
And of course, the fact that the Republicans were trying to jam their, you know, what I call repeal and steal bill through the House of Representatives, which they were not able to do yesterday. They didn't have the votes to bring it to the floor yesterday. They tried again today, still didn't have the votes. So that bill is dead, and that is a really good thing for people, for everyone. Well, maybe not for the millionaires who are going to get tax breaks, but
I still think it's probably a good thing for them, because what's good for us is good for them in the long run, which I think they fail to recognize a lot of the time.
Well, I mean, do people who are making over $1 million really need to get a, well, I just saw something from Bernie Sanders today that it was like they get a $50,000 tax break if you make $1 million over, $50,000 a year, because of this health care bill, you know, which really, it amounts to a wealth care bill as opposed to a health care bill. If the whole purpose of the bill is to fund tax breaks for the super rich. I mean, that's really what that bill came down to.
And isn't that kind of the next step for Paul Ryan and for President Trump, is to reform tax code? So they're trying to sneak a little bit of that into the healthcare?
Sure.
Okay.
No, they wanted to pay for part of that tax breaks for the rich that they're going to do, because they were saving something like $800 or $900 billion, billion with a B, from Medicaid alone, by gutting Medicaid.
Yeah.
You know, and who uses Medicaid? The elderly, the sick, the poor, people who are disabled. This is exactly who is going to be hurt by this bill, so that rich people get a bigger tax break.
Right, right. So we don't see that working out too well. So I'm interested, you said you didn't feel good about, speaking, in front of the public. And so you did get up and speak in Burlington High School?
I
in front of
did.
1,000 people? How did that go?
I think it went great, actually.
Yeah,
I was
cool.
really surprised
Cool.
How well it went. And I had
Congratulations.
a lot of really good support and encouragement from the RAD people, which made a big difference. And I was kind of joking with Jessica Early, who's kind of the healthcare guru for RAD, the volunteer healthcare guru, that she needed to bring a barf bag along just in case
you
I
had
start to get
some trouble. Yeah.
But unfortunately, that didn't happen. But it was a little intimidating because, first of all, Bernie, the live stream with Bernie comes on first, and and I'm sitting in the front row, kind of like with my notes, trying to get myself together, and next to me is the state guy for, I think it was Leahy's office.
Okay.
Maybe it was Jeffords. Jeffords, but
Yeah.
I think it was the state representative for
Leahy's
Leahy's office. And on the other side of me was State Senator Chris Pearson. And Phil Firamonte is right there. So, I felt a little intimidated by the people around me who do this all the time. And, they were like, no sweat. No.
Well, personally, and I think from Rights and Democracy and from the Political Revolution, we want to thank you for stepping up and doing that, and trying to recognize more and more how everyday citizens, even if they're not, their everyday job isn't to go speak in front of people. We all have something to offer to this revolution. It's people-powered. It's going to survive on people talking to each other, getting that real news, those true facts about how people are living and the hardships that they suffer through day to day. We have to get that out there and speaking to people. We don't all have to get up in front of somebody, 1,000 people, but the more that we recognize that we're part of it, we do have a story. It connects to people that we know, and so sometimes, just like you said, if we're not the ones that have suffered from not having health care or something the most, it's tied very closely to us because we're in community here. We're not living as just solo human beings that are detached from everyone.
That's right. No man or woman is an island.
Is an
We
island.
are all here together. So I think that, yeah, the lesson there is that if you think you're not an activist, well, you can be, you know. I mean, I was kind of activated by this in a big way.
Yeah.
Because, and again, not just because it affected me personally, because it's the right thing to do. I mean, is it right to take away health care from 24 million people, the neediest among us, in order to give tax breaks to the rich? Not in my view, not in my world.
This is something that I found interesting, you know, in the past year of my life or so. But do you see kind of a personal responsibility in each of us to maybe say something, as opposed to not stirring the water, maybe not standing up and kind of ignoring that? You know, it's hard to say that I think that everybody needs to do something, but as much as I think that everybody should be voting, I think that if you want to talk to your parents or your family, that's a great thing. If that's too sensitive, maybe some coworkers. If that's too sensitive, maybe some friends or something. But really saying something instead of not is really what kind of that fire can spread across the people. And
yeah, I mean, I think that we're in a weird world now, aren't we, with this presidency? That, you know, I think that we all do have a moral obligation to stand up for what is right. I mean, it comes back to, like, can you look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, is this the kind of society that I want to live in?
Yeah.
And am I going to, if I see this happening all around me, if I see, you know, racist attacks or sexism or, you know, on and on and on the list goes, it seems like a lot of this has been unleashed because suddenly people think it's okay to talk blatantly about racists. I mean, right?
Scary too that we were all, or not we were all, but that this group that's now speaking out so blatantly was still there, but just quiet before.
Right. Like suddenly it's okay to be a racist, or it's okay to be a sexist.
Right. A year ago, we thought we had to hide that.
Yeah. And I believe, I mean, my personal view is call it out.
See something, say something.
I think so. I mean, if we don't all call it out, right, it goes back to the Nazis. So first they came for the Jews or the Gypsies or whichever they came first
My
for.
neighbors.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not going to say anything. You know, I think that
Silent.
it's a slippery slope that you slide down very quickly if you don't stand up and say, you know what? No, that's not right.
Right.
And we're not going to put up. It's just like this outpouring of people and the migrant justice workers who were just nabbed by immigration.
Yeah.
And people are coming out for that. It's another topic, but
No, I mean, I'll get right down to it. If you know, you haven't heard, in the past 2 weeks, I think it was a week and a half ago, maybe, some migrant justice volunteers, migrant justice members, were targeted and picked up by ICE officers. It was Enrique or Kike Balcazar, Zoli Palacios, and Alex Carrillo. And so there was a rally. Migrant Justice put a rally together a week ago, and I think 100 or 200 people showed up to that on a pretty cold Saturday to walk up and down Church Street and voice their support and solidarity with this movement and these people that we all love and rely on as part of our community anyways. So yeah, we're seeing some people come out to the rallies and stuff. That's great. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, it's just that I think it's really important that everybody kind of gets out there and supports. I mean, you've seen the same thing happening at airports with this Muslim ban, and now he's got Muslim ban too that's just as bad. So it's really great to see people being activated and people kind of
attorneys, lawyers at the airport, getting out there to talk to people and give them maybe what the truth is,
and to welcome the people who are getting through and to say, you know, we support you. You know, that has made all the difference for those people. I mean, they're being detained for God knows how long.
I can't even imagine that whole scenario. I don't even want to try to think about putting myself in those shoes, because I've never been in that world where I think that maybe everything is quite as insecure as that must feel. And quite scary too. To get, I guess, back a little bit to the healthcare, what do you see, I guess, as far as healthcare in Vermont as opposed to, so maybe this bill didn't get passed? Is there anything overlooming that we're going to see maybe from our legislature or our
Well,
governor?
I think what we haven't seen yet, and maybe he's missed the bullet this time, but we have still yet to see Governor Phil Scott come out and make a very strong stand against this Trump Care bill. And that was the whole point of our rally yesterday, was to put some pressure on Governor Scott to stand with Vermonters and stand up against this this devastating bill. I mean, the effects on Vermont would have been devastating just in terms of numbers and money. I mean, something like $200 million in Medicaid funding would have disappeared over some time. And I was looking at some numbers, and it's something like 133,000 Vermonters are on Medicaid. You know, Vermont was one of the states that took advantage of the Medicaid expansion that was part of Obamacare, of the Affordable Care Act. So that recently, that number has grown significantly. So that puts Vermont in a very vulnerable position from any cuts to Medicaid. So it's a really good thing that didn't go through, but that doesn't mean that it's done.
Well, we still could have used Governor Scott saying, I know I don't have a voice in your ear, Mr. President, but I have a voice into the ear of all of my constituents in my state. And
well, he does have a voice. As a Republican governor, he absolutely does have a voice here. And other Republican governors have come out strongly against this against the American Health Care Act, the one that just died basically on the House, because they didn't even bring it to the House because they didn't have the votes. That doesn't mean they're not going to try again. But the point is that, you know, Vermonters and Rights and Democracy has collected thousands of signatures on these letters to send to Phil Scott, and we had a big pile of them yesterday at the press conference. It's like there's something like 1,500 in the last week alone that have been signed, and people are still signing those, and you can go to Rights and Democracy's website and still sign on. So I don't think the healthcare battle is far from over. You know, that is true. And here in Vermont, of course, what we really want to move forward to is universal health care and health care for all. You know, that's what we want. Because the ACA, Obamacare, goes so far, and it certainly has made a difference. It personally has made a difference for me. I still don't go to the doctor. I still haven't been to the doctor since I got this, but I have a lot more peace of mind knowing that if something happened, I'm covered, and that's really, you know, that's insurance at its most basic, right? That's why you have car insurance. not because, you think you're going to get in an accident, but if
Yeah,
you get
yeah,
in an accident,
yeah.
you're going to.
That's what it's
be
really
covered.
for, right? That's that catastrophic ending, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's
But
funny. But a lot of people.
healthcare
Sure.
is such a different animal from car insurance.
Different altogether.
Because it helps us with those oil changes or changing the tires, that preventative stuff
Right.
that keeps our car from dying someday and having maybe that accident where we crash and then we need the insurance. Our medical insurance, when we get it gives us so much benefit to access things. Mental health care, the entire week Vermont Edition on VPR has been talking about mental health care. Access to mental health care is a huge barrier in people getting any sort of help.
Yeah, yeah, and that was one of the things that was targeted in the latest round of changes that they basically did overnight, behind closed doors when nobody else is looking and everybody's asleep. It's like, oh, there go essential health benefits. These are the things like mammograms and preventative care and mental health care. Boom, out the window. We'll cut that. Trying to appease the ultra-conservative Freedom Caucus, which, they still weren't happy, and they're the reason that basically that they didn't have the votes to pass that bill. So, but in Vermont, we're on our way because and it's interesting because I think a lot of states look to Vermont because we tend to be first, right, doing things that are sort of socially progressive. So it would be really nice to get a universal health care bill passed in Vermont. Right now, as you know, universal primary care is making its way through the legislature in Vermont.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will have some momentum, and then that's at least a first step toward universal health care.
Were you in Vermont when we passed the civil union law?
I was not. I wasn't living here at the time.
It felt great to be on the cutting edge of that nationwide.
Yeah.
Healthcare's the same. If we got a universal healthcare law where every person, every citizen in Vermont is covered with healthcare, and we can make that work, that would feel amazing to start that.
What a great thing that would be.
Because it's gonna catch on, right?
Well, I mean, it has caught on, right? We happen to be the only country.
Internationally.
Many, industrialized nations all over the world have universal health care. We are the only country of industrialized nations that does not have universal health care.
Yeah.
And why not?
How'd this happen?
Why not? Plus, we have, shorter life expectancy. We have we have really lousy infant mortality rates. We spend the most on healthcare in this country, but we don't have the best outcomes. So we're not doing something right.
So I wanted to just highlight real quick, just Rights and Democracy. So we've put together a petition. How many signatures did you?
We had over 3,000 yesterday.
Over 3,000,
Up to yesterday, and that was growing fast.
So petition,
it's a letter
press
to
conference and
Phil
a rally.
Scott.
Yeah.
And there is a town hall, healthcare town hall coming up. Not sure what the status of that is, but it's right now it's scheduled for April 20th in Barrie.
I'll just let you know we got 60 seconds left.
Okay.
So
I'll let you wrap that.
April 20th.
April 20th, the healthcare town hall in Barrie.
Okay, so
Details
we all
on the
know
website.
about that. Thanks everybody for tuning in this month. Thanks again to Brenda.
Thank you.
Public speaking did fantastic on our live TV show. Thanks for coming and joining the political revolution as we each see our place and where we fit in it.
Thank you for doing this.
I know it's a lot of work for everybody, and every ounce of energy and minutes that we put into it just helps the cause.
Sure does. So get on out there and be active.
Yeah.
Activated.
Take the advice, everyone. And we'll be here right radbt.org or radnh.org if you're in New Hampshire. So thank you very much. Have a good month.